I stole Jujutsu Shenanigans combat. Okay, well, not really, maybe, but you can decide for yourself after we talk about the specifics. A week or two ago, I showed you guys a game I'd been working on for a couple months called Astrolith, an MMORPG partly inspired by Jujutsu Shenanigans. Modular abilities, terrain destruction, the whole 9 yards. And I got a lot of great feedback from the comments. So many of you were very kind, some less kind, but that's okay, and I took a lot of valuable info away from that experience anyway. See, the thing about JJS that makes it click for me isn't just flashy VFX, and that's even something I commended about the game. It's the impact, the screen shake, the audio, and the satisfying crunch of dunking someone through a rooftop. If you play any usual Battlegrounds game, I'm looking at you, TSB, you're going to spend 50% of your time flinging particle emitters at each other, and if you dare to ult, you can sit back and watch a movie-length cutscene before you summarily one-shot whoever you are fighting. Don't get me wrong, these games have a ton of fun mechanics behind them too, but JJS just really feels immersive. It does a great job of convincing you you're actually fighting as these JJK characters, whereas most other games seem to just kind of staple their names and aesthetics onto bland VFX. My game, well, it has some of that, but in many cases it doesn't really stick the landing. It's real rich of me to criticize these other games without taking a look at my own game, which has these problems tenfold. So I decided to go back to the drawing board with a bunch of my spells, and I upgraded basically everything. Let me show you an example of what I mean. See that? It's fine. In fact, it's even alright. The spells work, the damage happens, things die, but not only is there very little impact, the spell itself doesn't have much room for impact. Fireballs explode and laser beams burn people, but at the end of the day, neither of those is going to match a close quarters brawl or kicking someone into the air and stabbing them back down. Compare it to even a simple ability like Divergent Fist from JJS, which feels integrated and punchy and even has a special that rewards people for having high skill play. The issue was that I'd built a system that made making abilities so easy, I forgot to stop and take my time with some of them. A few floaty spells here and there is alright. We have quite a few of them to fill out after all, but I wanted to hone in on at least a few key abilities to make feel exceptional. First up, I stopped treating animations like they were decorations. In the old system, animations were basically just visuals that played on your character, while the real logic happened in code. Cast a spell, play an animation, spawn the projectile independently. It worked, but it meant the animation and the effect were only loosely connected, and you can really feel that disconnect even if you can't articulate why. It's critical that when the sword swings, it has a well-timed swipe effect, screen shake matching the direction of the swipe, fitting audio that doesn't repeat, on-hit animations, and most importantly, that your character isn't sliding all over the place while it happens. That one was tough to get down. It's easy to take all of that for granted. If you play a game like Elden Ring, it feels so natural that it's hard to even tell when these individual events are happening. Compare that to my old system, where I'm basically eyeballing animations, so they roughly wait X or Y amount of time before triggering an effect, and the hits feel sloppy and all over the place. It's honestly death by 1,000 cuts. Bit by bit, every ability feels less immersive. So I rebuilt it. Everything. Animations especially. Now they can fire events, screen shake, audio, VFX spawning, damage windows, on-hit animations. All of it is built into Unity's animator window, which makes creating these abilities easier than ever and makes integrating animations actually possible now. Take Uppercut, for example. This spell before was clunky, the timings are all over the place, and generally it's hard to imagine you're in a cool anime fight when your weirdly slidey punch just kind of offsets them up into the air a little bit. Now take a look after the changes. The victim flies up in sequence in a corresponding hit animation, it spawns hit particles and has follow through and screen shake. Instead of just randomly slapping this person, they stay on the ground for a second while they get back up, too. This isn't night and day necessarily. Obviously, I'm not going to start a career as a VFX animator anytime soon, but it's definitely a big shift, and it's one I want to make for every spell in the game, not just for this one uppercut. Hey, it's me, Rumi from the future. I won't take long, I promise. If you enjoy my content, please make sure to like, subscribe, and wishlist Astrolith on Steam. Thanks. Speaking of animation though, let's talk about another significant animation challenge, and for me, it was the elephant in the room when it came to making combat feel fast-paced and punishing. Pair animations. If you aren't familiar with the term, it's really simple. A pair animation is a set of two animations that play in sync with each other. You might immediately think of dances or emotes, which are use cases for these for sure, but I was far more interested in combat pair animations. Think about Toji stabbing Gojo, or Stark slamming that one-off demon with his axe. How would you implement that? At first glance, it might seem really easy, and it kind of is. Just play the two animations on the two players, right? But it turns out that is actually an absurdly difficult challenge. Not only are the two players out of sync with each other, and probably at a weird distance, you also have to keep them together even as the animations move them, and potentially as they themselves move during the animation. Add on to this the fact that we want to have ragdolling later, and things get complicated. The solution I found took days of trial and error, but it can be boiled down to just reparent them. If you aren't a coder, that might not make sense, and if you are, you're probably screaming, no, absolutely not, when I say reparent. But what I mean is basically just put one player as a child of another. That means the child player can't move anymore, and when the parent player moves, they move with them. The thing is, that's very error prone when you're working on a multiplayer game like this, hence 48 hours plus of non-stop debugging, but I eventually got it working seamlessly. As an example, we can take a look at a simpler implementation that doesn't even involve animations yet. This is Pierce, and all it does is drag a player with you in a dash. As you can see, before, it's laggy as hell, stuttery, and if the victim player dashes at all, they'll teleport out of Pierce early, which makes it both look bad and also mechanically inconsistent and unreliable. Here's Pierce using this new reparenting logic. It's smooth as butter and reliable every single time it hits. This spell is now usable as opposed to trash. To be honest with you though, this just opens the door into the vastly complex and intricate world of pair animations. If you're astute, you'll realize we haven't yet applied this quote achievement to an actual pair animation. It's the thing JJS does so well, it's honestly absurd. They blend pair animations with ragdoll physics, and even though I'm fully intending to match that, I'm no stranger to how stupid it is to try. The main challenge in matching JJS's pair animations is that they're generally pretty short, which puts it above most Roblox games, in my opinion. I absolutely hate being stuck in an overproduced cutscene or animation that locks me down, partly because it's annoying, but especially because it's comparatively easy to stuff two players in a sequence for 10 seconds. Making combat fun and engaging while interweaving these short half or full second pair animations and ragdolls is the real challenge. Being ever willing to hyperfixate, I tried despite the difficulty. This ability, Apex Drop, is the bane of my godforsaken existence. Having a player fly through the air, land without clipping into the ground, get back up after and be able to tank it again, all while syncing this to every other player and keeping them and the initiator player the same distance apart without causing bugs or additional clipping. It is not straightforward, but when it works, and I'm not lying when I say this ability clears every other ability in Astrolith that I've made on Combat Feel already, and it's still lacking a few tidbits here and there. Okay, that's awesome. We accomplished something here. But combat isn't just about hitting people, it's about getting to people, and if you can't get to someone to use an ability, combat feels terrible. Movement in the old build was serviceable, sure, you could run and dash, it did the job, but as we add more of these close range abilities, combat starts to really feel strained if you have to just beeline to your target over and over to try and land Apex Drop. The first and most obvious solution, at least to me, is wall running. In JJS, it's actually pretty hard if you're a newbie, so I, quote, stole it, but made it considerably simpler in the process as well. Just holding the key to the side of the wall you're running on keeps you there, and that's all. I added a bit of drop over time too, since I'm all too familiar with the JJS runners that love to use this to make your life a living hell. The idea is that since you wall run faster than you move on the ground, you can jump onto a ledge or prop to get closer to your opponent and dodge incoming projectiles at the same time. Next, it only makes sense to add ledge climbing. This one, honestly, isn't even really a combat feel thing. It's just annoying as hell to play in a world with destructive terrain and props if you can't ledge climb. You have to bunny hop everywhere, or you get stuck on candles and chairs or whatever. You get the idea. These alone already do a lot for combat and even game feel in general. With just these two features, movement goes from passable or functional to expressive, and fights as well as map exploration feel way more dynamic, with options for hidden loot behind parkour maps and that kind of thing. As our last upgrade to combat feel, I want to talk about ragdolling. This is obviously a big part of JJS, both in its fights and in its marketing. It's just really fun to knock a guy off his feet and send his limp body flying through buildings, but how do you actually achieve that outside of JJS, or outside of Roblox even, given that we have a much more complicated model? In Astrolith, I'll tell you how I did it, but also, how do we actually integrate ragdolling into pair animations? I mentioned it earlier, but I made the pair animation and animation event system with ragdolling in mind. What this means is that in any animation, I can trigger a ragdoll that kind of exempts the player from their current pose. Take Apex Drop, for example. It's a little hard to see, but the victim ragdolls once they've been hit. A big part of this is that when a ragdoll contacts anything destructible, terrain, props, houses, and so on, it sends a destruction event. If you get a ragdoll going fast enough, we actually turn off collision for the body and send continuous destruction events, which means that you can send them flying through entire cities and walls if you wind up enough, which creates this illusion of preserved momentum as you smash through buildings and walls. Okay, enough talking about individual systems. Let's see what this actually looks like in practice. I recorded a typical fight in the old build. You can see what I was talking about really clearly here. Both players try to stay far apart, they dodge more than they commit, projectiles feel like they just kind of slide into or over them. It's okay, but we can be honest about this. I don't think it's bad at all, and I think it's even serviceable for what it is, but it lacks juice, as we game devs love to say for some reason. So watch this then. It's not even a full fight, this is just a combo chain of me beating up a dummy, but even then, it already feels like it's working with twice the energy and nuance of the prior clip. Same game, same underlying systems, even the same goals, but I think these changes give it an actual rhythm almost. It feels like you're trading blows between anime warriors, and the environment is included, not just a silent backdrop. Nothing I've said in this video is news to anyone who's touched game dev before, but it's also something that no game dev has ever mastered. Game feel, juice, impact, whatever you want to call it, is extremely subjective. Screen shake is an option in games for a reason after all. But my takeaway is that it's really important for these systems and features to work together, not against each other. Audio needs to work in tandem with screen shake and explosions, not adjacent to it, or like kind of close by to it. And ragdolling is great, but if the hit that caused it feels weak, it seems out of place and random. It's weird, you can have everything in place and it still won't feel right until you nail the small stuff. Those details are what separates this works from this feels good, and I'm starting to finally get a grasp on that. Anyway, if you want to see more, everything's linked below. I post weekly showcases in the Discord, and there's a lot more coming. I'd love to see you around, or even playing the playtest on Steam, and I always appreciate a wish list. Thanks for watching.